welcome. This is Rick Baxter with Cost Control Software out of Carmel, Indiana. Today's session, I'm going to give you a little introduction to the NAV 2013 query tool. Show you a couple different examples of how you can use that tool to generate tabular views of your data. So let's get started. Now the query tool is not local. This is the home page, but the query tool is part of the development environment. So I'm going to switch over. I've got both running. You see I've got both the role-tailored client here as well as the development environment. And let's just go right into it. So I'm going to go Object Designer. And this will be a little more advanced topic, but just follow along and see how you do. So in other segments I've covered tables and pages and reports, but this is new. Right here is the query tool. And let's just get started and create a new one. So I'm going to hit New, and it is very similar to reports, quite frankly, where you have a data item and you select which table you want to draw the data from. So I'm going to start with a real simple one here, just a customer kind of list, and then we'll put in here a few fields and then we'll display it. So we'll have the number. Let's put in the customer's name. And let's put in maybe the city that they're located in, and let's put in, maybe the territory code. Let's put in the credit limit. That'd be a good one to display, and maybe the balance due. So let's go down. I'll type B for balance, BB balance. There we go. Balance LCY will work just fine. So there's a simple little query, just about 5-6 columns there. To our query. I'm just going to not make any other changes, and I'm going to save it. So I press escape, and you want to save the query, yes, and you always do want to give it a number of some sort. I'm going to put it in the user range, 50,002, and we'll call it customer query. Pretty simple. And I'll OK that, and you'll see there it is sitting right there in my list of other queries. Let's just run it so we can see what it does. So I hit run, and if everything goes right, bring this up on the screen here. It's going to show the first 1,000 rows of that query, basically the number, and then the name, the city, the territory code, credit limit, and balance, just exactly as I had shown it to you there. Let's do a couple little changes to this query. First of all, you might want to sort it not by number but by name. So we might want to set the query to be alphabetical. So I can go back to the design, land on the last line of the query. This is where you set the properties of that query, and you simply say I want to order it by, and then you pick the appropriate key that you want to sort by. So we want to sort by name. Okay, there's several keys already predefined, and we'll just pick by name. And we just hit OK, and we'll just save that, and we'll run it again. We're going to run it a couple times just so you can see some different examples of the way it works. So there we've got, now the query is sorted by name. Now let's take this a little bit further. Let's say you want to analyze the credit limit of each customer compared to their balance due. Of course, only the customers where we've established a credit limit would we want to be able to compare to their balance. So we'd want to filter the list. So I'm going to go back in to the properties again. Let's add a filter this. All right, one little change I want to make here is the filter is going to be on the data item itself. So I'm going to simply come to the properties of the data item, which is the customer, and right here is the data item table filter. So it's a table filter. We're going to filter that table where the credit limit is greater than, very simple, credit limit. We'll filter this where it is greater than 0. All right. And now that'll shorten the list. Let's just make that one little change. And I'll just save that and run it again. It's still alphabetical, but now it's only for customers where we've want to compare or have information about their credit limit and showing what their balance due is. Now you can easily export this to Excel if you wanted to drop in a column that's maybe the variance between the two, or to create a chart comparing the credit limit to the balance, things like that. So that would all be done in your Excel. So there's a very first example, and then in a second I will do a example number 2. Okay, here's example number 2. And I have to give you a little background on this first before we dive into it. Let's say in your company you've been asked to create a query that tabulates the salesperson results of a sales challenge by the owner. The owner is going to give bonuses to the salespeople that have sold the most number of, or have sales orders for the most number of inventory items that they have on sales orders. So we want to be able to see by salesperson a count of how many inventory items that they've got on sales orders. So let's see if we can't build that. It's a little more complex query, but it shouldn't be too bad if you think about how you would do it. Let's go back into the query tool, and I'm going to create a new query. So what the first thing is, obviously, is the salesperson list. So I would go to the query. I start my first data item, and it's going to be by salesperson. So it's going to be a salesperson, and I at least need to show the name, right? So I want to have the name showing for that salesperson. And if that was my start of the query, you can kind of create these queries and test them as you go. So let's do that. Let's actually, I think I'll just save what we've got so far. We'll call this 50,003, and oops, one more 0 in there. 5003, and this is sales person item quantity, something like that. Okay, so here it is, salesperson item quantity, and if I run it, basically here's a list. Basically at this stage the only parts to that query is that it's got the list of the salespeople. Doesn't mean all these salespeople have actually items in the sales orders that they're selling, but that's the entire list. We didn't apply any filters at all. So let's go a little further with this. We also want to basically, since it's a sales order kind of thing, we're going to go with another data item. We're going to bring in one more data item, which is the sales header. And quite frankly, we also need a data item for the sales lines to be able to figure out how many items, because we want to count those items, right? So we want to count the items, and so the column that we really want in the sales lines is the quantity. So here's the quantity column. Here we go, and we want to basically get a total of that. That was part of what the sales contest was, so we total it up, and that gives us basically the total. Now let's run this without making any other changes. Let's run this and see if we get the expected results. In fact, it's even warning me before I begin that the data item link property cannot be empty. So in other words, I've indented these items. These items are related to the ones above them, and it needs to have a link between them. So first of all, we know the sales header has a salesperson code in that header. So we only want to see the sales orders that are linked to the salespeople, right? So we want to just set a property here on the link. That's what I was kind of complaining about, where the salesperson number, so we got to find the salesperson number, matches the salesperson, there it is right there, salesperson code, where it references back to the salesperson purchaser table, and it's got to match to the code right there. So that's the link that we need to establish between the sales header and the salesperson codes, right? And actually, if it doesn't find one, we really want to skip those records. So exclude any rows where there's no match. That would make sense there as well. So that's what's called a data link type. This is all new stuff, I know, but just kind of go with the flow here. All right, then the second thing is, of course, the lines. We've got to link the lines to the header. So we do basically the same thing. We're going to say that the now it's the document number that needs to be linked. So basically we just come in, we say the document number, not document type, but document number right there has to link up in the sales header table with the document number. So there's number right there. Okay, and let's see if there's, and probably if there's no matches, then you can skip it. So we would want to assign that as well. So exclude rows if there's no match in that account. Okay. All right, now there's one other little adjustment that I want to make to this query, the salesperson item query, and that is in the design of the sales lines themselves. I want to add one more filter because I really don't want to have any quotes. I just suddenly realized that, oh, there might be some quotes in the sales line table. So I really want to have a filter that says where the document type is a constant order. You see, then we're only getting sales orders. And the other thing is if you sell resources or GL accounts, we really only want items. That was part of the nature of the contest. So the type, we need a filter on the type as well so that it's item. There we go. So now we've got two additional little filters going on here that will give us exactly what we want. So let's save this and save. And now let's run this sales item. And so I'm going to write the run button, and there we go on the screen. Hopefully you can see that okay. John Roberts had 603 was the total number of items he had on sales orders, giving me a summation, and Peter had 392. So it has automatically just summed all of those items up just exactly the way that we're looking for. So there you go.